Those NFL teams were powering up in free agency. Seems like some of the NBA's best are falling off a cliff. What is going on with the Spurs? Think about this. If the season ended today, they would be out of the playoffs. That's right. San Antonio, with 20 straight playoff berths, would miss the postseason for the first time since 1997. Now, just 2 weeks ago, even entertaining the idea was absurd. Take a listen to our countdown crew less than 2 weeks ago.
Are you concerned the Spurs will just miss the playoffs altogether?
I don't believe of all people in the world. You're asking this question.
Contractually obligated.
I see. I'm only going to participate in this segment because I'm contractually obligated as well. This is blasphemous.
It's weird.
The San Antonio Spurs will make the playoffs. I know it's a crowded West. I know 3-2-10 is separated by 3 games or so. But I look at their team almost like Pop is a superstar and he's playing on the floor.
I couldn't agree with you more, Jalen Rose, back then. Now, they still have a tough road ahead. LaMarcus Aldridge is still day-to-day. Kawhi Leonard still hasn't returned. Popovich is set to meet with Kawhi today, who, according to our Lisa Salters, could play on Thursday. And the relationship between the coach and his star just seems unclear. Now, Pop was unhappy with his team's performance last night, as you saw, and he knows they have a lot of work to do.
Well, everybody tries to be the best they can be by playoff time, and that'll be our goal too, to be in the playoffs and be as good as we can possibly be, no matter what the circumstances are.
You know who else can't be happy? The Cleveland Cavaliers. Gone is all that ebullience over the trade that brought in Rodney Hood, George Hill, and Larry Nance. What is present is the absence of 4 key players due to injury. The Cavs have fallen to 4th in the Eastern Conference playoff hunt, with the Wizards just a half a game behind. And after their 14-point drubbing at the hands of the Lakers on Sunday, LeBron was asked if it was easier to accept these losses, knowing that a solid portion of his team is sidelined.
Is it at all easier to accept these losses? No, this is not your team a month from now?
No, accept losses?
Well,
No. But I'll never accept a loss. It's not in my DNA.
I think that reporter had to know the answer to that question. ESPN senior writer Ramona Shelburne is with us now. Okay, Ramona, what is going on with the Spurs? Let's talk about Pop and Kawhi and this upcoming meeting that everybody's waiting for. What's your sense of what they might talk about?
Well, look, they've got 14 games left in the year. And Kawhi Leonard, when he came back the first time, he played 9 games, and he didn't really seem right. And there was a sense that, if he's not going to be 100%, which he won't be, will he come back and be on a minutes restriction? Will he come back and be 70%? How much do they need a 70% Kawhi Leonard still working himself back into shape, still trying to find chemistry with this group? I mean, how much do they need him for these final 14 games? There's not a lot of time left for them to figure it out. And whenever a star player comes back, there is an adjustment period. There is he's going to come in and be the focal point of the offense again. That's going to affect LaMarcus Aldridge and Pau Gasol, Tony Parker. That dislodges everyone else from the roles that they've been in. And so that's the kind of meeting that Popovich needs to have with Kawhi Leonard. But I don't know that they have a choice at this point. They're 10th in the West. And it's staggering for me to say that because on February 25th, the San Antonio Spurs were 3rd. That wasn't that long ago, okay? And for them to have fallen off this precipitously, this quickly, is pretty staggering, both for me as somebody who's covered the league for the past decade and a half, and them who have not missed the playoffs. I mean, Tony Parker and and Manu Ginobili have never missed the playoffs. And we're staring right in the face at that. So I don't know that they have a choice with Kawhi Leonard. They flat out need him.
It's incredible to even think about. I was right there with Jalen Rose 2 weeks ago thinking, that's blasphemy. Yeah. How could you even talk about this? And here we are. But speaking of that, you mentioned this idea that he could still be hurt, but possibly getting back out there. You've got Denver, Utah, pretty much with the same record, all of them fighting to even get in the top 8. What do they, you mentioned they got to get Kawhi back, but Isaiah Thomas came back at 75%. That integration was an issue in Cleveland.
That's right.
If it's not a Kawhi situation where he comes back, what then do they need to get into the playoffs?
Well, look, you brought up the right name, Isaiah Thomas, and that is why Kawhi Leonard has sat out as long as he has, because he has the type of injury that is hard to diagnose. And we go back and look at what happened with Isaiah Thomas last year in Boston, where he felt his hip injury had been misdiagnosed. He played on it all last year. It made it worse. It got to the point where he had to choose between having surgery or missing 7 months before he came back. Isaiah Thomas is still about 75% of what he was before that hip injury. And so if you're Kawhi Leonard, you have this right quad tendinopathy. And those of us who cover the NBA know how to say that now because it has become such a significant injury to a star player like that. If you don't feel like this is healing the way that you want it to, if you don't feel right on that injury, and your team is saying, hey, you're cleared, but he has his own doctors, his own set of medical professionals who look at him and say, you're not cleared yet. This has only happened in the last couple of weeks. You have to have a sense of, I've got to look out for myself because if it doesn't feel right, it's my quad, it's my leg, it's my career. And you don't have to look farther than Isaiah Thomas to understand how significant that is for a player of his stature.
We have a little bit of time left. Let's talk Cavs. What do you think their mood is right now after all that joy and glee from the trade, now with the losses starting to pile up? What do you think is going on in their locker room?
I think there's always this sense, and you played the clip earlier, Popovich is like a star player on the court. There's always this sense that LeBron is LeBron, right? LeBron will save us. LeBron will deliver us. But the longer this goes on, what's becoming very clear is they don't have a sidekick for LeBron. They don't have anybody else in the last 5 minutes of a game who can step up and deliver them baskets. And so I don't know that I would say there's concern, there's panic. I think everybody wants to see what happens when Kevin Love gets back, but that's never been his role on this team. He'll help their offense, but he's not a guy who necessarily creates for himself off the dribble or takes pressure off LeBron. He certainly doesn't help them defensively. And so I think there's this sense that we are what we are. And if they are going to win, if they're going to rise to the level that they hope to be at in the playoffs, it will be once again on LeBron James' shoulders.
All right, Ramona, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
You got it, guys.